So hello and welcome back to the GorillaBiker, and today we're going to be taking apart this brake master cylinder and rebuilding it. If you haven't seen the previous video where we took this off the bike, do please go have a look at that. So we're not gonna dilly dally. We're going to get right into it. This is a brake master cylinder from a 1997 Honda Valkyrie. However, a lot of these older style brake master cylinders that have, you know, the built-in reservoirs and whatnot are very similar to this one. So if it's something that you want to do, you'll probably get a lot of value out of this video. Unless I do it terribly, in which case you won't. Yeah, I should probably say what I'm doing. So first what I'm going to do is remove this little 10mm bolt nut here, which I've already loosened. So we're going to pop that off. Then what we're going to do is take out this pin screw. So that's a flathead screw right there. We're going to take that out, which will allow us to remove the brake handle. What I'm actually going to do before I do any of that though is remove the brake sensor. What that does is basically when you pull the brake, this is a normally closed switch. So when this is closed, your brakes are off. And as soon as you can hear a click. When you basically start to brake, that puts or closes your circuit, I suppose, or opens it, whichever way it's wired, I'm not sure. And that will turn on your brake light. So that's really important not to let that get damaged, which is why before I pull off this brake handle, I'm going to remove that just to keep it safe. Then what we're going to do is pull out all the accoutrements in here, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so like I said, well, actually we can just pull the handle off first, being careful. So that is a flathead screw, and essentially your brake handle rides on that. It's the hinge essentially for the brake handle, so it is very important. I will say that I would never have it dry like this. I would always have it lubed, which obviously whoever rebuilt this last did not lube it. But I would never recommend having them like that. I would always lube them up. We can pull that out. So we won't be using that again because we do, thankfully, have the original. Yay! I don't mind, you know, non-stock. We can actually leave that brake switch on there. I don't think it's going to hurt it. Although I'll be spraying brake cleaner and whatnot, so we'll take it off. And that is your brake switch. So, nice little unit. I believe it still works. Then what we have is this kind of rubber top hat, which I'll show you in a second. I'm just going to kind of give this a quick spritz out off camera because it's leaking a lot of old gunky shit and I don't really want it on my hands. So now what we're going to do is pull out this rubber piston right here, a rubber cap I suppose I should say, which rides on, but to show, actually first and foremost to show you what we're doing. So this is a rebuild kit from Parts Unlimited. This is your actual piston which pushes your fluid. We have a spring, a new snap ring, a new oil seal we'll call it, a new top hat is what I'm calling it, and a new buffer for the spring, or pusher for the spring. So we'll be able to replace all that stuff and you'll be able to watch along. So this is what we're taking out right now, this little rubber cup, and that kind of seals everything and keeps it nice and clean. So that's what we're about to pull out. The old one looks terrible. Underneath that, we're going to have a snap ring, very similar to this. And that holds the whole assembly in place. Underneath that snap ring, we're going to have our actual piston that drives the fluid, right? That's what actually moves when you pull your brakes. And on that piston, we're going to have a seal right there, which is essentially a fluid seal. Behind that, we're going to have this spring and this little pusher cap. And that's basically what returns your brake handle when you release it. So that sits in like that here. When you pull your brake, pushes in against it, drives the fluid, and then the spring returns it much as it is now. And that's it. These are, honestly, these older systems are very, very simple. A lot more simple than I think people generally realize. And it is in shit. Like, this thing is not rubber anymore. It's horrible. I would say what it feels like, but I don't want to. I can't unfortunately video me removing it, but I will show you once it's out. Alrighty. So, it is a different day. I had to go grab this guy with these little pinchers to get the old circlip slash, what do they call them here, snap ring out. So just to show you the difference, the old snap ring actually didn't really want to move anymore either. This is the old one, it's kind of rusty and feels really light. This is the new one that we'll be replacing it with. So this is also the old piston, which you can see is worse for wear than the clutch piston was. You can see there's corrosion there, and there's a lot of crud kind of stuck in it. Plus this is actually was stuck to it. Not a big deal. The spring was actually in good nick. Not that we're concerned about that, but it was. So in the shutdown, we'll say, while I was gone to get a tool and whatnot, I did clean out the inside of this master cylinder really well, which is kind of where you want it to be. And I also did clean the bore in here, and just cleaned all around where we're going to be mounting up our new stuff, which is important. So first and foremost, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab some brake fluid to lube up everything. So I did get a question after the last video, is there anything else you can use to lube these up? You could theoretically use red rubber grease. The reason I like using brake fluid is because that's what's going to be in there anyway, so you're not really contaminating anything by kind of getting it all brake fluidy. So what we just did there was we lubed up the whole piston and also then this buffer, and this kind of channeled side of the rubber first. We're going to just pop this down, which it is a tight fit, just to get that out there. I'm actually going to go with the pick. Seems to be preferring the pick. And just roll it in like that, and you just kind of want to move it up and down till it sits in nicely, and check your seal the whole way around. So I'm going to try show you that. So that's how it should end up sitting, nice and smooth. You should have this little kind of rubber seal the whole way around, and that's that ready to go back in. The reassembly of this is as easy as taking out the other side, or taking it out I should say. Spring and rubber buffer, so the rubber buffer being this piece, just to show you. So we've already put back in the new one, but essentially what you're looking at is that's how that should look going back in this side first. So essentially what you'd be doing is sliding that in like that, with this rubber piece facing up, because that's what your piston sits onto. And then on this side there was not any washer, so I will not be putting back in a washer. I'm surprised there was no washer, but apparently there was no washer. So there we go. You want to try and get as little tension on this as possible, because you don't want to deform it. So when you're putting this in, just keep it as lightly held as is possible, but obviously not as lightly as that, because it just ran away. So again, I've got that snap ring in there, and I'm just going to pop in and out my piston a few times, which it's fine. So you kind of can tell when it's seated usually. Obviously I didn't tell yesterday very well, but, or not yesterday, the other day when I was doing the, my brain's turned off. I'm pretty tired. When I was doing the clutch master cylinder. So now what we're going to do is the same thing we did on the clutch master. Honestly, if you can do a brake master cylinder or a clutch master cylinder, you can do the other one. They're very, very, very similar. So now what I'm going to do is fill this cup up with grease here, and then we're going to seat it in. Goodbye glasses, you were good. So this is a waterproof grease that I did buy from a motorcycle shop, but you absolutely do not have to use waterproof grease. I've used red rubber grease in the past. Red rubber grease would do this job absolutely fine as well. The waterproof grease tends to be a little bit heavier, a little bit thicker, and yeah, you don't have to use it. For sure, you do not have to use it. So essentially, just to show you, that's what it's going to look like when you have that seated back in there. And what that's doing is, Jesus, I cannot say words today. What that is doing is, on this is the old rubber boot, which was in pieces, but this top cup here sits into this little groove right here. So that's what that's doing. It basically sits there and covers all of this piece, which obviously this one, that old one had failed because it let all that corrosion in there. This was no longer lubricated, essentially. Or not even lubricated, but just protected from the elements. But that is the actual actuation piece of our Brakemaster cylinder finished. So you can push that to your heart's content. And we have a nice seal of grease in there now too. Okay, so I'm very blind. It was right here the whole time. So what we're going to do now is reattach this so we can check our actual actuation. And this is really easy to reattach. You're just going to slide it in there. And then this pin that we previously removed, we're going to grease up, put it back in there. Generally speaking, I would say this is probably, it would be better to use a thinner grease here, but it doesn't actually really matter. I would usually use a thinner grease, but this one's over here. And at the end of the day, once you don't have a grease that's like, how dare you, sir? Once you don't have a grease that's going to interact with anything else, it's absolutely fine. There we go. And what I mean by, you know, interact with anything else is this grease obviously is, you know, just literally lubricating a pin, or for all intents and purposes, it's a hinge point. And then what you want to do is make sure you put back on your lock nut here on the bottom. Got a little pinch. And you want to check your actuation. Which feels nice and smooth. And then at that point you can put back on your brake switch. And this is why I was saying be careful with brake switches, right? So I'm going to try to focus on this and show you. If you whip off this brake switch willy-nilly, what would happen is you could break that little contact point there, piece that's clicking, which is right here. So watch here where my thumb is. If you were just to rip this off, I've seen them get broken really, really easily. So that's why I say to just be careful with them. And that's it. So now we can actually remount this to the motorcycle. And how we're going to do that is with this clamp here. And again, as per the clutch master cylinder, there is an up on this. So you want to make sure you're mounting it in the right direction as well. First, I want to clean up this diaphragm with some brake cleaner, and also clean this up probably with the Dremel. This looks good. This one's fine. So yeah, I'll be back in a sec. So then what we're going to do is pop this back on. I don't think I'm going to put this back in. I don't really like it, to be honest. And the reason I'm just popping all this back together now is just so I don't lose anything. Obviously it's not full of fluid yet, but that'll all come in due course. So this piece obviously was hurt by corrosion over the years. I should probably try paint it, and I probably will. As you can see, it's very roughed up. And while the lick of the Dremel did help, I think this is probably a piece that needs a little bit of TLC. I'm just going to put one screw back into it for now, because I'm going to be changing these screws. Obviously they've seen much better days. But again, just to kind of retain everything. And also this sight glass is completely destroyed. I tried to clean it, but it's not happening. And I currently can't afford a ultrasonic cleaner. So this was like perfectly flat when I took it off. So I'm gonna say it should be about there. I'm just gonna pinch it up so I can test it, see how it feels. That feels about right there. And again, while I will be changing these banjo bolts, for now I'm just going to pop that in there to just keep dirt and debris out. And that's it. We have a nice functional brake master cylinder. Well, hopefully functional. We'll obviously only know that when we fill it and bleed it. And that is the Honda Valkyrie brake master cylinder rebuild. Brake master cylinders, clutch master cylinders on these older bikes, super easy. Honestly, if I'd had all the tools here with me and my Dremel and whatnot, it probably would have taken me, once it's bled, maybe 15-20 minutes to take it apart and put it back together, clean it and everything else. Like, it's really not a difficult job, and it's something you can absolutely do yourself at home. I know a lot of people often question me when I say this, but genuinely, you can do this. You can. It's not difficult. So if you have an older bike and this hasn't been rebuilt in a while, rebuild it. I guarantee you'll notice a difference in brakes. Now, will I keep those two master cylinders in the long run? I don't know. The Valkyrie was long known as a very good bike for stopping, so I don't think I need to really actually do much work on getting it stopped. I think the standard calipers, standard setup is probably enough for what I'm going to use for this bike. And in the interest of saving money, it's definitely what I'm going to run on it at the start. Will I upgrade the master cylinders in the future? Maybe. If you want to find that out, you have to stick around, huh? Maybe hit that subscribe button. And if you did find this video helpful, please do hit the like button, because it helps more people see it and it makes my brain parts happy. So, and leave a comment. Please leave a comment. I do love comments. So yeah, if you've watched, thank you very much for watching. If you found this video helpful, do let me know down in the comments. And like I said, do hit that like button. I'm just going to actually pop back on the actual plugs for the brake switch. So now our brake switch is fully back plugged in, should be functional. But yeah, if you've watched, thank you very much for watching. As always, a very special thank you to all of my patrons. I do really appreciate your support, and I do like how some of you are very interested in this particular rebuild. Hopefully we'll have it back on the road before too long. That is my goal. I do really want to ride this thing, so we'll see. So right now I've just knocked off the front debuild, and I just got those two pieces rebuilt because I had the parts here. Next we're definitely moving on to the fueling system and other pieces just to see can we get the engine started. So all of that's coming up. So if you want to see that, do stay tuned. And yeah, thanks again for watching. Adios. Outro crew. Are these things that you would have been nervous to tackle before you saw the clutch master and brake master cylinder rebuild? Like, they genuinely, it's just a piston. It's just a little piston that pushes fluid. That's it. It's such a simple theory and such a simple design. And I genuinely think anyone can do this. So let me know. Have these videos made you think, hey, I can definitely do that with honestly not many tools. The most complicated tool you need is the circlip or snap ring pliers. That's it. Bye, Tripro.